Interesting point about integrated resorts. Obviously, this is really where people are going to these days, whether it's a Kotai Strip or Sentosa Island in Singapore. The integrated resort concept is something that is definitely successful. I'm just curious why you don't think Clark is an integrated resort, considering it has many of the components you'd find in most IRs. They have hotels, even an airport, which other IRs don't have. I mean, that should be a real significant contribution. We have hotels, you have casinos, you have like the hot air balloon, you have these big annual events. Why isn't it a legitimate integrated resort?
Well, the question is, why don't I consider Clark Freeport as an integrated resort? Well, because for the simple reason that the perception is that it's an export zone. The locators are mostly here for manufacturing, which they export out. And so there is that mixed perception. Is it an export zone or is it a tourism zone? And this is the same challenge of Subic. When you approach Subic, what you see are factories, and while there's natural beauty around, it is being eclipsed by that image of factories.
Should that be corrected? I mean, just your opinion.
Well, I think with very ingenious landscaping, I think that can be corrected. But I don't think there's any planning going on in Subic that way. So an integrated resort has the look and the feel of a resort, which is relaxing. In Clark, you come to do business. Okay, so I think that that's why in my presentation I said there is an opportunity to really master plan integrated resorts in the Crow Valley area.
But not in the existing.
I think here there's no more land available. Okay. Now, you asked earlier, your first question, Dave, was what's a good thing that's happening in Clark Freeport? I have to distinguish between Clark Freeport and Central Luzon, because there's more out there than just Clark Freeport. Okay. Now, in Clark Freeport, I think the greatest thing that's happening is GGLC. And I'm not saying that because they are co-organizing this event or because Dennis and Jeff are my friends. Because GGLC has Medical City. And the opportunity there is for medical tourism. I think that with direct flights from a lot of places to go to Medical City for medical tourism, there will be hotels nearby and serviced apartments. I think that's part of the plan. There is a big opportunity to develop this product. I think USEC Corpus showed that as one, wellness, retirement, medical tourism together. That's one product, I think, that Clark Freeport can offer. That is still tourism. And as mentioned, conference meetings because of the business market. Now, if you go further afield to Bataan and Zambales, where there are beautiful beaches, then you can combine that with business tourism and medical tourism, and that makes one package.
All right. Thank you so much, Nars. The floor is open for your questions, your inputs, your suggestions. We have quite a number of microphones actually on the floor. We should make it very convenient for you who are either in the back or the front. Yes, Jeff, you want to throw the first question? Go ahead. Just some ground rules to make it easier. We don't have much time. Please direct your question at any particular speaker so that we don't have to ask everyone to respond to your question.
The question I had was somewhat of a comment first, and then kind of just directed towards the Travel Agents Association groups. The talk about what is there to do in Clark. I'm a pretty avid traveler, especially around Asia, and I would say this area has just as much to offer as many of the other places. It's not Bali, you know, it's not Phuket, it's not these areas that, you know, have the beaches or the world-class kind of beauty, but that's really not the draw here. I mean, I think first and foremost, work to your strengths, and in that sense, what Nars mentioned with medical tourism, with Medical City being here, is a huge potential boom for the area. The MICE industry is growing here, so that's an amazing asset to have, and increased hotel rooms and conventions that are continuing to happen here. And especially with Manila's congestion, more and more people are saying, yeah, we'd love to get up to Clark, to hold our corporate event. But in terms of what's to do, who knows? I mean, there's a wide variety of lists, but I think it's the promotion and packaging which is the most important thing, which is the hardest thing. I've been here for 3.5 years and I see none of it, or very little of it. And from a person who comes from the U.S. who's used to just clicking online and seeing everything at your fingertips and finding out who to talk to, how to get there, like a Lonely Planet type guide, that's very difficult. That's one of the hardest things for the Philippines, I'd say, in overall tourism, but certainly in this area as well. You know, how do you get to Subic? How do you get to 100 Islands? How do you get to Pinatubo? Who are you going to use for your tour operator? I've done probably 90% of the tourism things in Central Luzon.
On your own?
On my own, just personally, because it's interesting. I like doing that where I live. But it's always so difficult. The only way you find out about it is if you yourself have done it and then experience it and then do it better the next time, or you talk to a friend who's done it. It's very difficult to find out in advance or plan in advance how to go about doing your trip or your desired event. And then one of the most frustrating things is constantly you hear about, oh, did you know this group just had a concert here last weekend? Or did you hear about this cultural tour or this food tour? And you're like, oh man, I wish I had. I would have definitely gone. So it's, even though I know groups promote it extensively, for whatever reason it's not, I guess there's no network. And maybe that's the question is, what can these travel associations do, working with the government sector or private sector groups, to create a network maybe to get this information out? Because that's where I think the disconnect is. People have this misconception there's nothing to do here, and there's amazing amounts of things to do here. It's just not known, I guess.
Thanks, Jeff. Carmen, maybe you'd like to add. Eileen, you're holding the microphone, but let's have Eileen first. Actually, quite a complex analysis there, but basically asking, why is it that so little is known about all the great things happening here?
Number one, I share your frustration. I don't think it's just around Clark that's happening. But let's go back a bit of history where the marketing funds of DOT did not belong to DOT. That's why the Tourism Act is there to provide funds, immediate funds, to the Department of Tourism. That's one. Where the PAGCOR, there's a percentage of the PAGCOR proceeds that goes there. Secondly, the lack of information, who should address it? I think that's the disconnect there. Who is supposed to provide it? Because there would be pointing fingers, whether it's the CVB, the Greater Clark Visitors Bureau, or is it the DOT, or where should the funds come from, or is it the private sector? And usually, the CVB or a tourism council would put that effort together because you are all the stakeholders. If you want something to happen, you really should cooperate with each other. And that's the only way. And as you say, government sometimes moves more, slowly. So, if you want to move something faster, then you have to take the initiative. That's the only solution.
Nars, I'd like to bring you in because looking at the slides of the Undersecretary, you didn't really see Clark there, no? Among the priorities. In fact, it was Boracay, there was Palawan. Is that a historical reality for the DOT? And second, bring in the Hunter Valley experience to back up what Eileen was saying about private sector taking the initiative rather than waiting for different government agencies to take the lead.
Well, I think the DOT is prioritizing leisure destinations like Boracay, Mactan, Bohol, and unfortunately, Central Luzon was not pinpointed there. But I think now with the growing number of visitors going through Clark International Airport, the DOT should take notice of that and put Central Luzon in the priority area. The example I gave of Hunter Valley tourism is a private-public sector partnership, but with private sector taking the lead. And I'd like to support what Eileen said. It should be the private tourism stakeholders that should manage a website that has all the information that is timely with all the concerts and all the how to get there and, all the issues that Jeff raised. I think there is something happening in the connectivity area, but not information is being released out there through a website or through a blog or through Twitter. There are so many media that's available for this, and it's just, I think, getting organized and getting it done. I think that if the stakeholders feel that there is something in it for them in terms of income generation, they will do it.
Thank you. Microphones are available. Please take the mic if you have a question. Also, please identify yourselves for the benefit of our panel.
Good morning. Bob Wagner from the Robert T. Wagner Foundation. For the Kapapangans here, Maya Paabak Kekoyunang. I did the best I could. My girlfriend is a chef and a master baker, and she's Kapapangan. And the food here is some of the best in the Philippines. Could be challenged by Bacolod to a certain extent. And I'm in Bacolod quite a bit, and I know a lot of people who move back and forth between this area and Bacolod. Unfortunately, we don't have any direct commercial flights, so I have to fly myself sometimes in a small aircraft. But that's neither here nor there. I want to know, there was somebody, I was sitting in the back, and someone there mentioned something about the food, about promoting the food in this area. I traveled to Europe a lot, and I lived in Europe for a long time, and there are cities are known for certain things in Europe. And one of the cities in Europe that's known for food is Lyon in France. Okay? You don't go to Lyon to play golf. You don't go to Lyon to go for the nightlife. You don't go to Lyon for anything other than to just enjoy the incredible food. And the food here is really, really good. Now, a couple of months ago, we were at the Kelly Theater, a bunch of us. And we were talking about the new Taste of Pampanga that was scheduled for this coming December. I don't know if any of you were there or not. But they had a huge spread of all the different Kapapangan food types. And it was really, really incredible. And even my girlfriend said, I'd never even known that any of these people were here, and then they're going to be exhibiting at Pamangan, which is the name of the food festival. So I think if you really wanted to concentrate on identifying this area with a particular thing, forget about the golf and the nightlife and all of that. That's all ancillary. Focus on what people know how to do here really, really well, and that's the food.
Thank you. That's really more of a suggestion rather than a question, but feel free to react. Carmen and Cesar, yeah.
Actually, our association, or even the tourism sector, has already established the culinary programs in the Philippines. And we have already established one product for Pampanga, which is actually a combination of Culinaria Pampanga Bulacan, which runs for 8 hours. And this is actually a combination of a food demo, food tasting, showcasing the culinary cuisine of Pampanga, and of course the dessert of Bulacan. And on top of that, we have several culinary programs.
Is that in the website, or, I mean, I guess the question is, if these things are existing, but people don't seem to know about these things.
Yeah, going back to that question, why there's a lack of promotion, I agree, and parallel to what Eileen has said, the private sector has to take the initiative. How many associations do you have here in Clark or in Pampanga? I'm sure there are a lot. Is there a tourism council here in Pampanga or in Clark? Because we cannot always depend on the national program of the Department of Tourism when it comes to marketing. One way or another, the private sector has to take a lead. For example, with Philtoa, since up to now, the Tourism Promotions Board, which is actually the attached agency of the Department of Tourism to take care of the marketing and promotions, has not really settled in. So we at Philtoa has already taken the initiative. And one way of doing this is really to have already an inventory of fun tour packages to complement the branding of It's More Fun in the Philippines. Well, let's face it, It's More Fun in the Philippines was really a big one. It was still a big one, but it could only be as good as that without any other component that would come to it. So since the TPB at this point has not really set any direction yet on what they want to do because of the lack of budget or transport. I really don't know why. So we at Philtoa has already taken the initiative to design all these tour packages that will complement the brand of It's More Fun in the Philippines. And this will be posted already in the website of Philtoa. So anybody who would like to see or check what can we do in the Philippines, they can see it there. So these fun tour packages is a very encompassing tour packages. As a matter of fact, for the interest of the people of Clark and Pampanga, we are featuring this Pampanga and Clark as a destination, as a day destination from Manila, as a part of a whole caravan or round trip, from Pampanga to Subic, to Pangasinan, and then to Baguio, then Pampanga to Baguio, going down to Pangasinan, and then to Subic, back to Clark. And that is actually a 5-night, 6-day program. All of these will be featured, or this will be uploaded in the Philtoa website. But my point there is that you have to take the lead. You cannot just always wait for what the government will do. You are the privates, you are the stakeholders here. You have invested, you put in your capital. So you cannot just depend on what the government will do. You have to take the lead.
Carmen, I think you wanted to say something. Yes.
I agree with what Cesar said and what Eileen and Nars said. We need the private sector to invest in the tourism products. But what I'd like to say is that Cesar mentioned about the Tourism Council. We are in the process of creating one for Angeles. As for the GCVB, the Greater Clark Visitors Bureau, I'd like to say that it's a private organization under the umbrella of the North Philippines Visitors Bureau, which is the CSR of the Manila North Tollways Corporation. And that's how it was born. There are 11 other CVBs in the North Philippines area, including Subic. And there are, other than what Undersecretary Corpus said about, part of what he said earlier on the product portfolio, we have education here in the Angeles and Clark area. We have a lot of schools catering to foreigners, especially, for instance, the Angeles University Foundation. It has Indians studying medicine and nursing, business management. We have Chinese coming in the groups, enrolling every semester. They graduate here at the Angeles University Foundation. Now we have the Koreans who are learning English. So that's how a lot of English schools for the foreigners came to be.
Okay.
And we also have the retirement group. We have a lot of foreigners retiring here because of the, like anywhere else in the Philippines, the standard of living is a lot cheaper here in the Philippines than in their home countries. We have Americans. Previously, we only had the American military. Now we have the Australians. We have a lot of Commonwealth subjects retiring here.
Okay. Rosemary, you wanted to say something?
I just want to focus on the question of that guy there. You're talking about chef, right? You're talking about food and chef. Let me just focus an answer. Let me just give you an
Unfortunately,
answer.
Unfortunately, we're serving...
Mangaan.
Yeah, okay.
We're serving food, but not Kapampangan food.
Just talking about food, because this is one of what Clark and Pampanga in general has to offer, okay? My daughter is a chef herself. And one thing I can share with you, let your girlfriend learn to cook the exotic food, where Angeles is known for, like the crickets. Because actually she herself has to, hold sessions for some potential chefs who wanted to really make a name here. And first thing they have, camaro. They call it camaro. So first thing they have to learn is to cook what is more exotic and known in this place, which is the camaro. All right, and of course the next will be sisig and all the other grills that they have around in the area. Because I want to focus on what your question alone is talking about food. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Yes. Please identify yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Hilda Padua. I'm the Managing Director of TISA Travel and the immediate past president of the ATAP, Alliance of Travel and Tour Agencies of Pampanga.
Thank you. Your question is for?
First, I would like to thank the gentleman over there for mentioning about Pamangan. He was there, and it was the initiative of the private sector, ATAP. So Pamangan, it was held last December 14, 2012. It was a foretaste of Pamangan, the unveiling. It was just actually a launching because we're going to have Pamangan 2013 Kapampangan Food Expo, which will be held here in Clark again on September 13 and 14. My question actually is not related to that.
Okay.
But I just want to share that the private sectors here are very aggressive and very willing to really work with the government.
Congratulations, yes.
Okay, we've been mentioning since yesterday and today about the increasing number of airlines flying in and out of Clark. But we never actually tackled about these airlines' suspension of flights and cancellation of flights. Because there are issues that we need to address. I think the reason why they're canceling is because of recognizing that the travelers going out from Clark are the same travelers coming in. So I would like to say the example of Palawan. So AirAsia canceled the flights, and yesterday was the last flight of Air Philippines. Now that we have EK, Emirates, to fly effective October 1, my question is, what is the immediate plans? Because we've been hearing long-term plans. Immediate plans of the LGUs, local LGUs, tourism government agencies, private sectors in preparation for the flight.
Okay.
Are we seeing the Middle East market to visit Clark and other parts of the Philippines? Or we're seeing it again, that the reason why they're flying here to Clark is because of the 10 million Filipino residing outside the Philippines, which is just 10% of the population of the country. I think basically other airlines also consider that. They fly in the north, in Clark, because of the fact that there is a big number of OFWs that reside in the north.
Okay.
So I am not actually hearing that the potential of the Middle East market to visit the Philippines and the preparations.
Okay, so quite a number of questions there. One is about the inconsistency in the flight schedules. The other one about whether these foreign flights are actually bringing in tourists or just servicing our OFW market. But before that, let me just agree about the potential of food. Last weekend I live in the Alabang area, which is very far south. I came to Pampanga just to eat sisig. That's all. 4 hours on the road to eat sisig and another 3 hours back. But it was worth it. I mean, it was an experience that you don't get anywhere else. So you're on the right track. I think the potential is there. But going back to the challenge about the flight, anyone like to take that on? Eileen?
We cannot second guess what the airlines plan when they market their new routes to and from the Philippines. But I would say, as a Filipino, or as here in the Philippines, business tourists are growing, and this is not in any DOT plan. It is not in any DTI or whatever plans. Business tourists are growing. There are several. If you were here yesterday, they would have. You would already see that there are several Japanese companies investing in the Philippines. There are several ASEAN companies that are investing in the Philippines. There are several trade in the Philippines. And I think because the common carriers tax, the removal of the common carriers tax is going to be passed as a law that there is savings also in making this as a future or a potential hub or destination. And hopefully that will, because the government is into connectivity, with the purpose of having connectivities and being a hub and so on, this can be their game plan, and I'm sure it is. You can read between the lines of what they strategically have plans for in coming here and why come to Clark. In fact, the 10 million tourist arrivals, in fact, Director Luciano said, kaya yan kahit sa Clark lang, if we move fast enough. So, again, I think that's the key word, if we move fast enough. So I think Philippines will really be off demand. Clark is poised to be first because everything is available right now. So I think that should answer or speculate the answer to your question.
Okay. Let's also not forget that coming from Emirates, coming from Dubai, Dubai being a hub for European travelers as well. It's not just the Middle East market.
I think from the experience of the previous flights, because I think what the lady is saying is that most of the flights coming in via Clark, I do not know the exact ratio, but I would say that about 70 to 80% would be OFWs. So with the coming in of EK now, with Emirates, they're looking at it also in the same perspective. But mind you, even in Manila, for example, because let's face it, the Philippines is an OFW country. Most of the international carriers, even Philippine Airlines, for example, when they try to consider a route, they would always try to consider what is the percentage of the Filipinos or OFW in the area. Because having other OFWs as a base market, that guarantees them something like already a viability of the route. Now, but given that, having said that, please don't take away the possibility that even if you have the OFWs are returning, they are now classified even now as tourists because the balikbayan definition does not limit to the balikbayan coming from North America. I think the balikbayan definition now is like 2 years, 3 years. You are now considered as a balikbayan. And these people would have money, no? Now, even if you have only 20% of the real foreigners coming in via Clark or even via Manila, out of this 20% tourists, you may have here the business travelers, you may have here the leisure travelers, but the question really here is, what do you offer them? You should be ready, without really studying what will be the problem, you should always be ready on what to offer to these people, even if it's just 10% of the total traffic, no? But if you're not ready on what to offer, then you will be bypassed again. Because from Clark, immediately they will just proceed to Manila because the products in Manila are already more established. What I'm saying is that if you can really establish the products that you have to offer here in Clark, then even if you get that 20% or 15% of that real foreign traffic or tourists, then it's okay.
Nars, I'd like to ask you, Nars, you know, in October, with the increasing flights from Emirates, that would include European travelers, Middle East travelers, OFWs included. How prepared is Clark, in your opinion, to give a